Imagine you are an Indian startup and you're just at verge of cracking the deal, and suddenly your co-founder want to exit, or suddenly your partner doesn't want to actually pay for the project which you have already delivered. Now this is a situation where the temper flares, there's a lot of anger. What do you do next? Do you just take them to the court, have a legal suit, and end in a bitter taste? Or do you want to maintain the relationship without burning the bridges? In today's video, we will be dealing with the art of negotiation, that is, how to maintain the relationship without burning the bridges in legal disputes. We'll actually together explore that how smart negotiation can save your business deals. We'll learn what are the main toolkit of a negotiation, how it is being backed by the Indian laws, and what are going to be your takeaways and how to save the relationship in case of a legal dispute. Now, before I actually go into the technicalities, what is negotiation and all these things that I just ranted about, let us hear some real life, very interesting story and an example of the Tatas, that how negotiation preserves the relationship in businesses. Now, in this dispute of Tata and Docomo, basically Tata and Docomo had a joint venture which went sour and Docomo wanted to exit. Now, under the contractual terms, Tata was supposed to buy back the shares at a fixed price, but Tata wasn't doing it under the garb of the RBI guidelines, pricing, and all of that, legal things. Now, what Docomo did is Docomo dragged Tata to international arbitration and won over there, and they were awarded with a $1.17 billion arbitration award. Now, what Tata could have done after coming back to India, they could have fought for the enforceability of that arbitral award for years and could have actually harassed Docomo. Now, what Tata did it in 2017, they entered into a settlement agreement with Docomo, wherein Tata just paid that $1.17 billion and they got the settlement approved by the Delhi High Court. Now, this was a very big example that Tata has actually established by saying that they wanted to preserve their international relation and their trust that international investors had in Indian market than just fighting over this procrastinated fight which was going for years. Now, this is what an effective negotiation can lead to. Now, to define what is negotiation, negotiation is not at all about defeating the other side. It is a collaborative effort by both the parties in solving the problem. Guys, in business, conflicts are inevitable. There's no business that runs without conflicts. But instead of just ending the relationships in courts, what we often should adopt in India, what is called as chai pe charcha, that is just sitting across the table and deciding a middle ground. Why? Because in India, the businesses or the companies are not faceless. They are run by people and relationships matter. Even the stats show that in India, most of the business entrepreneurs want to take a dispute head on by solving it in negotiations than just delaying it or just procrastinating over it. So in practical terms, through negotiation, you actually save time, money, reputation. And on contrary, what can you achieve? You'll go to courts, which are very, very long and delayed procedures, and arbitrations are very costly. And how do you want your business partner to actually remember you? One can be that we had a fight, we have a sour relation, and we are having a lot of legal battles and problems. The another can be that when you meet that person, he would say, "Oh, you remember that tough situation that we solved together." Now, this is the effect of negotiation. Now, let's just quickly get into how. That is, how will you resolve a business dispute without actually making it nasty with negotiation? And here are some critical essential ingredients for a good negotiation and which should all the startup owners know about as their basic toolkit. And the first and the foremost is respect relationship. Because in India, relationship rules. You need to show a mutual respect towards other person concerned. Instead of just going and attacking the person, it is good to show some respect and have some empathetic talk before actually getting into the business deal. Even if you don't care, you need to pretend that you are actually concerned about what the other person also wants in this negotiation. Becoming aggressive in a negotiation just jeopardize the entire reason that you're sitting across the table. You lack the trust, the other party will never even hear to you. Instead, just say that you're looking for a win-win solution, or you're looking for a win-win situation where both the concerns can be handled together in a negotiation, because that is the way you can save the partnership. Now, the second most important thing is that you need to listen very actively and actually empathize with the other person. Often in conflict, each side is so busy telling about their concern that nobody is actually hearing about what is the other party's concern. So you need to be a very patient and a very active listener and not just hear about it. And honestly, let them even vent if required, because the feeling of being heard actually diffuses a lot of problems. For example, if there's a delay in delivery and the client is very furious about that, why there's so much delay, you can just give an active hearing, active listening to that person, and even in course you will realize that what are the problems that the other person has to face because of these delay, because this will really calm down the situation and even comfort the other person that you are understanding what he is saying, because the mutual respect has to be the viewpoint of a successful negotiation. Now, the third essential element in this kit is to actually focus on interest and not the position. Now, this is a classic principle of a negotiation, is to focus on why rather than what. That is, why is that what the person wants, he wants, rather than what is exactly that he is demanding. Because for example, I'll say that I need 5 lakh rupees because of your loss, is not a way to say it. Rather than you should say that I have suffered so much loss from so many places because of the defects in your delivery, and that is why I need 5 lakhs. So therefore the idea has to be on the interest and not on the positioning or on the demand that the other person is making. Now, very interestingly, in one startup scenario that I came across, there was a dispute between the vendor and the retailer. Now, vendor was demanding for immediate payment of all the pending payments, and the retailer was actually wanting some time and was delaying the payments. Now, after negotiation and after thorough discussion with each other, they understood each other's interest point. The vendor was asking for all the payments because he has to make further payments. However, the retailer was asking for some pause because he was not getting the payments from his own customers. Now, after thorough negotiation, what they decided was a win-win situation. The vendor and the retailer entered into a settlement plan wherein the vendor got some immediate payment in that settlement plan, and the later payments were to be given at a very minimal interest. Now, this was a win-win situation because with this, the retailer also got some time and some period to make that payment so that he could also receive the payment from his own customers. Now, this is what happens when you just focus on the interest and not just the positioning or the demand. Now, the fourth essential element in the negotiation toolkit is know your BATNA. BATNA is best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Now, this is a bit of a negotiation jargon, but it is very, very powerful. So, BATNA is actually a plan B. If this doesn't go through, this will be the recourse. If this fails, this will be the recourse. BATNA is very important because it gives you a leverage in negotiation that to what extent you can go down and negotiate. Now, for example, if you're in a vendor conflict, however, this client is not that important for you, your BATNA could be that I'll see you in court if the negotiation fails. However, if it's a very big client for you and it is one of the major sources of your revenue, your BATNA could be, if the negotiation is not going through fruitfully, your BATNA could be that I will take a haircut and I'll resolve it, but I'll need this client and I'll need this payment. So you need to know your plan B. Also, an important thing is you need to know the plan B of the opposite party as well. So brainstorm before negotiation and think that what will be the plan B, to what level the other party is willing to negotiate, because that will also aid you to break them down to your level of negotiation. The fifth essential tool in this toolkit of negotiation is that you have to be objective and not emotional, because emotions obviously just loses the purpose of negotiation. You have to be objective, and this objective could be like telling the market price, telling the industry standards, telling the best practices, telling the legal precedents, telling whatever is available to objectify the entire purpose of the negotiation rather than subjectifying to it. If two parties argue over payments, like citing something like that industry standard is a 30-day payment cycle, will be a good place to start the negotiation with, because it's a neutral viewpoint for both the parties to come to a conclusion. For instance, if the partner is demanding something which is actually not there in the contract, and if you can just slightly refer and point it out the signed document which is binding you in law, is again a very objectified viewpoint and a neutral viewpoint for both the parties to have a discussion. If, for example, in a negotiation the discussion is about the quality of the product was not good, then referring it to the standardized methods like ISO and ISI, which is the best practice, best market practice, is again a very neutral point of negotiation and an objectified way to lead the negotiation. And obviously, guys, you need to keep emotion in check in mediation, and this is a tough one, especially when it's a personal business. Anger, frustration, irritation are very obvious outcomes, especially when you're in business with your friends turned into co-partner betraying you. Obviously, all of this has to come, but you need to keep your anger in place. Take a short break, postpone it to next day, maybe adjourn it to the second half of the day, anything and everything that is possible, but you cannot get emotional. Another way to go with it is actually to write the numbers, write the discussion, write the facts, write the negotiation terms, because it actually involves a very vital part of your brain, which also reduces the emotional factor of it. Another important technique that often works is to have a lawyer or a mediator present in a room, because that would actually keep your horses down and make you calm and not go aggressive beyond a point that can lead to failure of the negotiation. Now, each of these techniques is actually going to help you navigate the negotiation very effectively instead of just burning the relationship and taking it to court. Now, let's just quickly recap them. Build and maintain the trust, listen actively, focus on the underlying interest, seek a win-win situation for both of the parties, have the best alternative, that is Patna, in place, and use the objective methods and not emotions to negotiate effectively. Now, to explain you the power of these tools, let me take you through a real life story and a real life example. To a Mumbai-based startup actually was having a lot of difficulty because of their vendors' late deliveries, and the contract actually gave the power to startup to levy a heavy penalty in case of late deliveries. Now, the startup owner, she was initially very furious, very angry, wanted to take the vendor to the court and get a heavy penalty. But later on, when they entered into a negotiation, the owner of the business actually came to know about the interest element of the vendor, and she realized that the late deliveries were because of the spike of the raw material cost in the market. And she even realized that if she actually levied that heavy penalty, that could just shut down that small business. So, in alternative, using the objective method of the negotiation, they actually got what is the existing market rate of the raw material, and they just said that you would be supplying the entire product to us at a 10% discounted rate. To which the vendor was also okay, because he also did not wanted to lose this client, and he also did not wanted to pay that hefty penalty amount. So it was in the end a win-win situation for both, and they did not burn the bridges, the relationship did not go sour, and the partnership of a good business together still continued. Now, in the next segment of this video, we'll be actually dealing or talking about the legal framework in the Indian commercial laws that are available to back these negotiations. Now, why is law at all important in a negotiation? At the end of the day, it's business talking business. But to know these laws will give you a leverage to what end you can negotiate, and also that you don't end up signing a deal which is not legally enforceable, guys. And the first and the foremost important is the Indian Contract Act. Now, Indian Contract Act is the bedrock of all the agreements and the contracts that are executed. And one of the essential elements that come out from the Indian Contract Act is that all the contracts have to be free consent, without coercion, without forcibly asking a person to sign the deal. So this means that you cannot just keep a metaphorical gun on somebody's head and say that no, you have to sign this deal, because that is not out of free will. For example, you cannot just actually tell that you will file a fraud criminal complaint against the person to get him to sign a deal which you want in the negotiation, because that could be voidable in the court of law. That could be actually challenged because it is not coming out of the free will. So the Contract Act actually underpins all your negotiations which end up as a settlement agreement or a negotiated agreement. A famous example in India was the Ambani brother dispute of a successful negotiation. Now, in 2005, instead of a prolonged fight, legal battles, all the feud between the brothers, that is Mukesh and Anil Ambani, over the Reliance empire, it was settled through negotiation, which was actually steered by their mother, Kokila Bae. The company was split amicably, wherein Mukesh was given oil and petroleum business and Anil was given the power, the finance and the telecom business. Now, this all was navigated through a successful settlement agreement. Obviously, it was not directly invoking Companies Act, but there were lawyers and merchant bankers involved to formalize it. Now, this is a very great illustration of what a successful negotiation can do without having a mud fight in public and slinging mud on the brothers or on the family members. And this also ensures the highest price to the shareholder, because this is how Kokila Bae puts it. Now, the third law, which is very relevant for you guys to know, is the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Now, this is a big gun for the big companies, guys, because all the commercial contracts that you undertake in today's era has an arbitration clause to it. Now, arbitration is obviously a third neutral party who is appointed as the arbitrator, who adjudicates the disputes and give a decision. However, arbitrator's decision or the arbitral award is as good as a judgment decree. Now, what I want to focus here is not arbitration, but is a pre-arbitration procedure which is called conciliation, which is also adopted in all the contracts in today's era. Moreover, in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, the entire segment of Chapter 3 is dedicated to the conciliation. Now, what is a conciliation? It is an informal arbitration which is very close to negotiation, because whatever you say in conciliation cannot be held against you, or whatever proposal you give in conciliation cannot be used as an evidence in the court of law in a legal case or in an arbitration. So again, it is behind the door settlement that you do with the other party under a controlled environment. Therefore, conciliation is another form of mediation, because it doesn't hold you legally binded to abide by it no matter whatever happens, and it is behind a closed door where it is regulated and modulated by a third party. Also, Section 30 of the Arbitration Act actually directs the arbitrator also to propose a settlement during the arbitration if they see that their chances of this getting settled and negotiated. So that is also another parameter in the Arbitration and Conciliation Act, that arbiters themselves who are appointed to give the finality to a dispute often actually encourages negotiation and settlements. Now, in the last segment of the important laws that are necessary for negotiation, I would want to touch upon two. The first and the foremost is the Commercial Court Act, which was enacted in 2015. Now, in 2018, there's a pre-mediation, that is Section 12A, which has become necessary. So even if you want to sue somebody or take them to court to get something recovered or get your money back, you have to go through a mediation procedure or a mediation process, which is again negotiation, before you can actually go to court, because the law also supports settlements and negotiation. The second would be definitely, I would want to talk about the MSME Act. Now, in MSME Act also, if you file for a recovery, you want to get the money recovered, even over there, the MSEFC, that is the Facilitation Council, will first have to do a conciliation and mediation, and only if that fails, the arbitration comes into picture. So if you are a business owner, if you're a startup owner, I just need to tell you one thing, that law supports mediations and negotiations more than anything in today's era. To wrap up, you need to understand that every conflict is also an opportunity to build your relation, an opportunity to build your business, an opportunity to build your trust, an opportunity to show your leadership, an opportunity to show your creative ideas that nobody around you can see. Negotiation is an art, You need to be calm, you need to keep in mind the techniques, active hearing, know your partner, know the other person's interest, know their position and not just the why, and keeping all these elements in your head, and also knowing all the legal backings that we discussed, you can obviously lead to a successful negotiation and retain the business relationship. Keep that bridge intact of your business partner so that you can cross it in future when the time comes. In the end, I would just want to say that start applying these negotiation techniques in your everyday business. Next time when you see a conflict, think about what the other person wants, or think about what is the worst you can afford. Adopt these techniques, and I would love to hear about what are the outcomes. It could be a fail, it could be a pass. Negotiation actually takes some time to get a hand over that craft, but I would love to hear about what are the outcomes of adopting these techniques. If you like this video and find it little knowledgeable, valuable, do not forget to subscribe, hit that like button, share it with someone who would want it, and I will be seeing you in my next video.